Consciousness. It's one of the greatest mysteries of our existence, an enigma so profound that it bridges the worlds of science, philosophy, and even spirituality. We all experience it. Yet, despite centuries of exploration, we still can't quite define what consciousness truly is. So, what exactly is consciousness? And why does it remain one of the most perplexing questions in human history? Today, we dive deep into what we know and what we don't know about consciousness. Part 1. What is consciousness? Let's start with a question. What does it mean to be conscious? On the surface, it might seem simple. Consciousness is our awareness of ourselves and the world around us. It's the vivid experience of seeing colors, feeling emotions, and knowing we exist. But the more we try to define consciousness, the more elusive it becomes. Some describe it as a state of wakefulness or alertness, while others go deeper, defining it as a unique experience, a subjective, first-person view of reality. But here's the kicker: we have no universally accepted definition for it. Scientists and philosophers refer to this as the hard problem of consciousness. Coined by philosopher David Chalmers, the term heart problem points to the profound difficulty of explaining why and how physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experience. You see, we can understand brain functions, but understanding the experience of thought and feeling, that's an entirely different challenge. Why does red look red? Why does pain hurt? These are questions science has yet to answer. Part 2. The science of consciousness. Now, let's turn to the scientific side. If consciousness is tied to the brain, then surely studying the brain can help us understand it, right? Well, yes and no. The field of neuroscience has made tremendous strides. We can now observe electrical patterns in the brain and map out which areas are active during specific tasks. Through techniques like MRI scans and EEGs, we've learned how certain brain areas are linked to aspects of consciousness, like memory, emotions, and perception. Take, for instance, the prefrontal cortex, often associated with decision-making and personality, or the visual cortex, which lights up when we see things. These areas give us clues, but they still don't explain the inner experience of being. In fact, there's a phenomenon known as blind sight, where some people can respond to visual stimuli without actually seeing it. Their eyes work, their brain processes the information, yet they have no conscious experience of sight. Cases like these show that consciousness isn't as simple as brain activity alone. Even stranger, there's evidence suggesting that consciousness may not be entirely localized to the brain. Some theories propose that consciousness could be a more distributed process, involving intricate connections across the brain and possibly beyond. But again, while brain scans give us insights, they don't reveal the full picture. Imagine trying to understand a symphony by analyzing each note played by every musician. You'd understand the pieces, but not the music as a whole. That's the current dilemma of consciousness science. Part 3. Theories of consciousness. So, what theories do we have? Let's start with one of the most widely accepted, integrated information theory, or IIT. According to IIT, consciousness arises from the brain's ability to integrate vast amounts of information into a unified experience. The theory suggests that consciousness is a result of complexity and connectivity, where each piece of information affects another, creating a web of interdependent thoughts and perceptions. But IIT also faces limitations. It explains how information could be integrated, but it doesn't fully explain why it feels like anything to experience that information. Then, there's global workspace theory. This idea likens the brain to a stage where consciousness acts as a spotlight, illuminating specific pieces of information for the audience. Our conscious mind. This theory argues that we're only conscious of information that's in the global workspace or spotlight, while the rest remains hidden in the backstage of our unconscious mind. While it provides insights into attention and awareness, global workspace theory still doesn't explain why we have subjective experiences. One of the more controversial theories is Panpsychism. It suggests that consciousness might be a fundamental feature of the universe, much like space or time. According to this view, everything has some degree of consciousness, even particles and atoms. While this sounds like science fiction, notable scientists and philosophers have begun to explore it as a serious possibility. If consciousness is indeed a universal quality, it could mean that our brains don't produce consciousness, but rather, they tune into it. But panpsychism remains a highly debated theory. Part 4, the hard problem and why we struggle with it. So, why is consciousness such a hard problem? Why can't we just find a straightforward answer? The truth is, we're dealing with something that may be beyond our current understanding. Imagine trying to explain the color red to someone who's been blind their whole life. You can describe it, you can analyze its wavelength, but you can't convey the experience of seeing it. In the same way, consciousness might be something that resists explanation because it exists beyond the realm of objective observation. This is why some philosophers argue that consciousness may always remain a mystery, that it's simply something we experience but cannot explain. Interestingly, our inability to fully understand consciousness might actually be a part of being conscious. Some theories suggest that consciousness evolved as a survival tool, not as a mechanism to understand itself. In other words, consciousness is good at helping us navigate the world, but not so good at explaining its own existence. Part 5. The future of consciousness research. Where does this leave us? Is consciousness a mystery we're destined never to solve? Perhaps. But recent advancements in technology and artificial intelligence are opening new doors. For instance, researchers are now developing brain-computer interfaces that can, to some degree, read thoughts or enable communication for people who can't speak. As technology evolves, we may gain more insights into the workings of consciousness, and perhaps even replicate some aspects of it in artificial beings. But then, that raises another question. If we create artificial consciousness, how would we know it's truly conscious? Can a machine experience joy, sadness, or wonder? Or would it simply be simulating those feelings? As our understanding of the brain and AI grows, we may find ourselves redefining what it means to be conscious. So, consciousness remains one of humanity's greatest mysteries, a puzzle that bridges the gap between the tangible and the intangible, between science and philosophy. Maybe one day, we'll have an answer. Or maybe, like the most beautiful mysteries in life, consciousness is something we're simply meant to experience without fully understanding. If this deep dive has sparked questions in you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And remember, it's just a like to you, but it means the world to me. Subscribe to your Sunday deep dive on UltraPlexus for your daily dose of curiosity.